let's get going. We have all the panelists in place, so welcome again. This is the second day of the Nordic Ukraine Advocacy Summit 2025. As mentioned, the theme of the event is new geopolitical reality. This day will be more focused on the work of our civil society organizations. This is the agenda. Agenda for day 2. So we will start with a panel discussion about the role of our CSOs in building resilience. Then we will have a couple of workshops. Then we will have a light lunch, kind of similar to what we had yesterday. Then we will have another round of workshops and a coffee break. We will try to start the cybersecurity training provided by an external company a little bit earlier today. So we will try to start at 2 p.m. instead. So one of the workshops will be cut a little bit shorter. And then we intend to finish something like 20 to 3 or 3 p.m. Practical issues, Wi-Fi credentials are there, toilets are downstairs. It's not shown on the plate here, but they are actually downstairs. The lunch will be at 12, and then the coffee break a little bit earlier than 2 p.m. Again, if you prefer to not have pictures of yourself, let us know. Here, there are emergency contacts just in case, and again, please continue sharing your photos and stories and updates in social media. Hashtag #NewUs2025. So, we would like to start with the first panel about the role of civil society organizations in building resilience, and the moderator for the panel will be Alexandra Hrybenko, researcher at Oslo Metropolitan University. Please, Alexandra.
Hi everyone, I hope you can hear me well. Thank you for coming here on Saturday morning after a long, very interesting day yesterday. Let's start the panel and lively discussions. Please, I will introduce the speakers now, and please follow after your introduction to the stage. Be careful of the wires. First I would like to introduce Anne Tusvik-Bonde, political advisor at Amnesty Norway, the organization that documents the impact of Russian war in Ukraine and advocates for the rights and release of political prisoners. Please proceed to the stage. Next, I would like to invite our Ukrainian panelist, Vlada Dumenko. Vlada is the head of communications at the International Center for Ukrainian Victory, a civil diplomacy platform founded at the start of the full-scale invasion. It brings together leaders from prominent Ukrainian NGOs to defend Ukraine's sovereignty and democracy through international advocacy. Welcome, Vlada. Another Ukrainian panelist, Anna Avdovichenko. Please. Anna is a program director at PR Army, an organization that, through PR and communication with international audiences and press, provides historical and political context about the war in Ukraine. And our Norwegian panelists. Ole Pole, head of the Ukrainian Freedom Convoys, Norway, Norway-based volunteer organization supporting Ukrainian army through private donations. And the last panelist is Tore Valaker. Please sit over there. Tore is a member of Venstre Party, head of the Slavo-Ukrainian Association, that collects also private donations and delivers aid to Ukraine, both to civil society and the army. Welcome. Stay here. I think you can just share these 3 microphones, and me and Ole can share mine. As we all know, the civil society in Ukraine has been terribly affected by the war, but at the same time, civil society in Ukraine is also resisting the effects of war and uniting and including into civil society organizations to support Ukraine, but also not only in Ukraine. We also have our allies in European countries, including Norway, that support Ukrainian population. So I would like to start this panel discussion asking you, dear panelists, the question: why is it important to continue supporting Ukraine, and how civil society organizations like ours in Ukraine and Norway and elsewhere in the Nordic can help Ukrainian people to continue being resilient in this war? Who would like to start?
Hello, my name is Anna Vdovichenko. I am Program Director of Ukrainian NGO PR Army. We started to work in the very first day of full-scale invasion, and our main mission was to spread Ukrainian voices. We work through international media to connect Ukrainians and Ukrainian experts to raise awareness and to explain what's going on in Ukraine. One of our main stream actually connected a bit with you because it's thank you. It's human rights and advocating of war crimes. We call it Where Are Our People? It's a stream about forcible deportation that Russians are doing with Ukrainians in occupied territories. So yeah, we succeed in this awful case a lot because we contributed in the ICC warrant of Maria Lvova-Belova and Putin, which is great because it's the only one thing that now has such legal ground. So we are more or less working in advocacy campaigns like this to connect victims of such cases and to know why it's critical to support these things, because people don't know what's going on in occupied territories, what people are going through. And there is actually no information about how many people are over there, how many people are struggling, because they didn't share any list, because I know that now they are trying to push on these negotiations, this fire process, near 400 names of kids that were forcibly deported in Russian territory. So it's critical that in every country in the world you will be doing such events to raise awareness and to really explain how severe this crime is. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Ole Kvåle. I'm one of the founders and the head of Ukrainian Freedom Convoys. We mainly focus on buying cars in Norway that we paint green and drive to Ukraine and deliver them directly to soldiers. So in terms of your question, thank you for being here. It's good to be among friends. The question was, why is it important to continue to support Ukraine? Well, we in Norway, we live in a good society, I would say. We're lucky to have good governance, good government and politicians who, I believe, see the best interest of the people. We enjoy the liberties such as freedom of speech, freedom of assembly. All these freedoms we more or less take for granted. The freedom of owning property. So in broad principles, I would say that are these freedoms worth fighting for? Yes. Now the fight is not taking place mostly in Norway, but it's in Ukraine. So helping Ukraine is also helping ourselves. So that's from the more egoistic perspective. But I think that it's as human as it can be. If your friend is in danger, you help your friend. So it's nothing to think or make too big analysis about why we should help Ukraine. For me, it's very natural. You see someone in help and they're the good guys being attacked, then you help them. To your second part of the question, like how the civil society or civil organizations such as Ukrainian freedom convoys can help. I believe it's the really big help needs to come from governments, such as the Norwegian, such as other European countries and other friendly countries. But there will always be needs that the government can't attend to. That's in our societies here in Norway. We cannot just ask for everything from our government. So there are a lot of gaps that needed to be filled, and that's one core role of small organizations or from civil societies. And secondly, I think that we, in a lot of ways, can be very efficient. If you look on cost efficiency, we don't have any administrative costs. No one has salaries. We are volunteers. We have guys who buys the cars. Average price of these cars is $3,000. It's very cheap. If you had a governmental agency to purchase these cars, the costs will be much, much higher. So I think that that's another aspect. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Tore Wallaker. I'm the head of the organization Slava Ukraini. And first of all, I'd just like to welcome all of you from Nordic countries and my fellow Ukrainian friends to my hometown, which is now my hometown, Oslo. It's a pleasure to have you here to be able to speak together, as we will do further in the workshop. And I would like to start with giving credit to the person who chose this image, because this place, this is actually the fjord from which I was born and raised. First 19 years I lived there. As you see, there are not many villages. That's very correct. There are villages just on some tips and some bays and so on. But to what we are doing and why it's important to support Ukraine. When the full-scale invasion came in February 2022, I didn't know any Ukrainians. I'd never been to Ukraine. I had no idea I would go to Ukraine. I had no desire to go to Ukraine. I didn't see any reason why I should go to Ukraine. Now I am a person who has been to Ukraine 5 times during the war. I've gotten a lot of Ukrainian, I would say, friends, among several among you sitting here, by the way. This shows just that building relations is important in order to be able to provide support. The question we were asked to answer firstly here is, why is it important to support Ukraine? How could it be done? And the way I perceive this is that my foremost task as a Norwegian is to broaden the knowledge of Ukraine and what's going on in Ukraine to the rest of the Norwegian population. Well, that's why I insist to work with Norwegians and not with Ukrainians too much, for example, in my work. Not that I don't want to cooperate with Ukrainians, but Ukrainians, they support Ukraine, mostly. So they don't need to learn anything from me. I learned a lot about Ukraine, Russia, and so on during my contact with Ukrainians, so I appreciate that a lot. And I try to put all the Norwegians in contact with Ukraine in that way, that what we're doing basically the same as Ole here in the Ukrainian Freedom Convoys. He taught me how I should do it, and I started doing it when I brought my first car to Ukraine. The thing we are doing then is that we are sending drivers, Norwegian drivers, with cars which are donated directly to the front unit, which ask for a car. And Ole put it very clearly that we are filling in a gap which maybe shouldn't be filled in by the government. We are filling in that personal commitment from many people, which is important. So, for example, in the Ukrainian military, as far as I know, it's very hard for them to get cars from this the government.
I'm sorry, I think we can talk about it in the
Yeah,
part.
we will talk more about this later.
Thank you so much. Lara would like to elaborate.
Thank you. I will continue. My name is Vlada. I represent here Ukrainian NGO, International Center for Ukrainian Victory, and we are working on advocating everything Ukraine needs to achieve exact victory. during the ladies started this NGO during the first days of full-scale invasion started, and we decided to prioritize these. So we are working on only that things that we are thinking, and our partners are thinking that could help achieve sure victory. Not, going to as long as it takes things, but to work on that. And what we can see here at the Nordic Advocacy Summit, cooperation and building of networks and building of our allies, it's super important thing that helps us to achieve results, because to be honest, only one NGO cannot achieve a direct result in such huge institution as the European Union, NATO, so on and so forth. So we should unite and connect to push other initiatives, to push other institutions, and to make them doing the things. And that's why it is super important to be united, to cooperate, and to push our governments, institutions to have particular results. And from my perspective, if we are working in advocacy, every time people are asking, but what are you doing? How could you measure it? So from my perspective, we could measure anything if we know for sure that we have strong allies, we have strong partners, and we have particular decisions and particular results at the front line in Ukraine. So I'm here to say thank you for organizing of this, I think, great initiative of connecting Nordics and Ukrainian NGOs, because who support Ukraine, because it shows us that during this its third forum, and it shows us how important it is to know each other and to cooperate and to do things together.
Thank you. It's already on.
It's on. Okay. Yes. So I'm Anne from Amnesty. I was also there yesterday, and it was a pleasure to be there. It was one question. It was a panel about the sustainability of the resistance. It was one question also about the civil and humanitarian sustainability, which I thought was very important, and I'm glad that it is a focus on the civil society today. I wanted to start by telling about a meeting with Sevgil Musayeva. She's the editor of Ukrainska Pravda, and when she got the Free Media Award from Fritt Ord, she said that she started to do journalism because her grandmother was transported from Crimea by Stalin, and it was so little documentation about what happened. And she said that this is the reason why I'm the editor, why I'm documenting the violations in Ukraine now, so no one can say afterwards that there are no documentation. And it's a bit the same what we do in Amnesty and other human rights organizations. It's really to make sure that the perpetrators will be held responsible for the war crimes and the human rights violation, and that no one, also what we hear in Norway, no one can say that this didn't happen. So the last days, I have more work to reproduce and remind Norwegian about the documentation Norway and Amnesty Norway and Amnesty International has done since 2022 to tell about the documentation of the war crimes in Bucha, in Mariupol. So you could see that even in Norway, this information, this propaganda is coming closer, as we know. But Amnesty is working to document the war crimes, and as Lene said from Norwegian Helsinki Committee yesterday, it's important to do that together with local Ukrainian organizations, and to make sure that we can also document that we are doing it in a correct way with quality facts. And then Amnesty Ukraine, they are working especially to empower veterans, to also make sure that they know their rights. They work to document how the war affects the vulnerable groups like elderly people, people with disability, and so on, and to cooperate with other Ukrainian organizations. So I think that is the key. It's not just a document, but also how you tell the story afterwards, like you are doing. And then in Norway, we support really and lobby for greater support to civil society in Ukraine. So we believe that the support should be more than double, and we believe that we should not give the support through UN agencies. We should give it directly to the Ukrainian civil society and to Norwegian organizations who have been working and cooperating with Ukrainian organizations for many years, because then we will have a sustainable development.
Thank you so much. We've a little bit already talked here about how each of the organizations is contributing to strengthening Ukraine, and now I would like to ask each of you a little bit more precise questions about that, and so you can share what you do in your organizations. Vlada, I would like to start with you. Can you tell us, because it's not evident maybe to everybody, why public diplomacy is important in the times of war, and can you tell us who you're trying to reach with your campaigns and what impact these campaigns make?
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. So we as International Center for Ukrainian Victory, we are working on pushing to achieve interesting and complicated decisions. We have interesting example. We have advocacy campaign Make Russia Pay. It is dedicated to confiscation of Russian sovereign assets. So when we started and launched this campaign, to be honest, we didn't have lots of partners in this area or people who really believed on that. Usually we've heard that, come on, it's not possible, we will not join you because you will never achieve it, so let's kind of prioritize something else, let's think about I don't know, another priorities, another topics, and so on and so forth. And what we started to do is engaging different audiences and working on different levels and working on from different approaches. What I mean, first of all, as a team, we are working on gathering brief argumentation and expert information. We've generated during this campaign around 11 briefs, and our analytics they still continue produces another briefs, arguments, papers, and all what could be expert information, which will be helpful to during our discussions on this topic. To convince people to understand that it is achievable. That was our only goal. And then what we really understand that usually people don't really are interested in such complicated economical topic. It's boring. People do not like to think about confiscation, assets, or what is it? I mean, state assets. What's the difference? And people are okay, but let's discuss another topic. So we started to think how could we communicate this complicated and boring idea, and we've gathered couple of Ukrainian creative guys and generated this idea of slogan Make Russia Pay and of the idea of the bill, and that was super supported by our partners. That was our next step of advocating. We started to gather partners who will help us, I mean us as a country, as Ukraine, to promote this idea, and other NGOs and other expert groups. And what was done really important, we started to engage experts from other countries. I mean, from Nordic countries, from France, from Germany, from Belgium, of course, because the biggest part of assets is in the Belgium, Euroclear. So we started to, build kind of network of experts and people who are working on different level, kind of on creative level, then with the media and journalists, then of course of expert area, because if you don't have enough arguments and enough information, you will not be, kind of serious. You will not be looking like a serious and a clear person. And then what we launched a huge public campaign. Of course, our colleagues, for example, here sits Hanna Hopko and our public speakers, they pushed this idea during high-level bilaterals, during high-level international events, and they advocated it publicly and raised this idea. So my answer is that only in I call it 360 campaigns, when we are gathering all audiences and all approaches, expert one, creative one, networking one, and of course power of diplomacy and public speaking, only then we could achieve it. And this campaign is still going. We achieved first results year alone, 50 billion of euro loan for Ukraine. But our next goal is to confiscate and seize all Russian assets. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I will proceed to you, Anna, because you're doing something similar. And from your website, I saw that you also focusing on communicating with foreign audiences, and in particular foreign press also. If you could talk a little bit more about why is that necessary, and also do you feel the Western coverage of the war in Ukraine, Western media coverage, do you feel it's the interest is still there, and how to keep the audiences in the West interested?
I will be very honest here. No, it's not the same. It's going down and down. First, second, why we started, it's in the very first place. Because of propaganda. Yesterday was talking about disinformation and misinformation, how they're using, for instance, this case of deported kids or deportations in general. They explaining to everyone that they just bringing kids to the holidays because of the grant, so they should, and they're spreading this a lot in international media. So they are building the narrative that there is no war crimes at the first, no one is struggling, that the people had the choice, but in general they didn't, because it's all frontline, or they just steal the documents and people don't have any other choice but go where they should. So no, it's not enough. It's actually should be like what we may do here, like to bring victims in each country. It's hard for them, yeah, it's very traumatizing, but we are working with them. We provide them like some psychological help and everything, so they may have an interviews, they may speak directly to media, to I don't know, politicians or whatever. And what then people asking us what you may do. Actually, you may buy Ukrainian weapons. It's because colleagues here was speaking that we need some kind of Danish model from each country if possible. Yeah, but it's actually how you may help to back the kids back, because if Russia wins, there will be no other option. They will stay over there. They will never be. So this is what we trying to explain. We're building narratives, we're working, we're explaining why there should not be the Ukrainian victim and the Russian expert in the same article, because it's very hard to understand. So more or less that's it.
You're working directly with the media.
With the media,
You're also
yeah.
publishing your own stories?
No, we are connecting the experts for instance, like Vlada's campaigns. Also, we pitch and we see that our colleagues doing something like this. We're going to for instance, like new reports and seeing like, okay, we have research, we need to push it. We have speakers to explain why it's crucial to have these assets, and trying to spread and push the media environment in the right direction, because it's very hard, because a lot of news are going. Now it's severe with Washington is every day some new scandal, so the media environment is very, very hard.
Thank you so much. Now, let's move on to how Norwegian society organizations help Ukraine. And Ole, could you tell us a little bit more about your organizations and how you collect aid, and what's needed on Ukrainian front lines in your experience, and what challenges do you face, both when collecting aid but also delivering it to the front line?
Thank you. Just very briefly how we started. Just after the full-scale invasion, I contacted the Ukrainian embassy here in Oslo and started to cooperate with them. I started campaigns on Facebook. So first I got donations then from friends and family. We bought then medical equipment in Poland, and we drove to Kyiv and Lviv in March 2022. But then after a while I realized that I want to direct the aid directly to the army. Why is it important to support the army? I think also in the terms of deportation or kidnapping of kids, supporting the army is the key. Because they are the one who is addressing the root cause. The root cause for a lot of problems in Ukraine, loss of territory and people, is the Russian invasion and occupation. And who is tackling this root cause? That's the Ukrainian army. So supporting them is paramount. And thank you. And let me state it very clearly. I'm just a volunteer here in Norway. The big burden is carried by the Ukrainian soldiers and Ukrainians living in Ukraine. So the least we can do is support a little, and that's what I also try to spread to other Norwegians. It's like we should support, because that's the least we can do when the others are taking the heavy burden, loss of lives and limbs brutally. We are now, since January 2023, we've been focusing on cars. So it's pickups and SUVs. You as Ukrainians know very well what kind of cars. I think a lot know about Mitsubishi L200. Do we have a Mitsubishi L200 4 doors, please? Then we have to explain them about the tax regime in Norway, which makes it very expensive to import 4-door cars to Norway. Therefore, we have very few of them. But it quickly came to our attention that it's cars which is very needed, because you cannot just order it online. You cannot just order it online here either, because it's used products and you do have certain skills. I'm very lucky that I got in contact with 2 guys who are helping me with purchasing the cars. And so far we've purchased around 300 cars. We have delivered 280, and we're going to deliver 30 during the summer. But it's a huge need. We have now, after that delivery, we will still have 80 requests from different units and soldiers. We try to cooperate as much as possible directly. In November, I was lucky to go with another organization to the outskirts of Vovchansk. There we met a drone operation inside a destroyed factory. I spoke with a professor who was working there. He was 65 years old. Now he was a drone operator. And I asked him, because I asked that to soldiers, what do the guys need? They need cars. Then I asked him again, but besides of cars, what do they need? Cars. So that's really what we are focusing on. In terms of challenges, I think donations is always a challenge, because if you have the money, you can solve a lot. There's a saying that money is not everything, but it's the key to the rest. So donations is always a challenge. How do we address it? It's a lot about visibility and creating results. But because if you think of it, what do those who donate to us get? They don't get a service, they don't get a product. So we have to sell an idea, a story. So being very visual in social media, also trying to get on board media, that's the tougher one. Media always craves for a new perspective. So I think we also need to be very active in thinking like, how could we help the media getting good stories? We finally got coverage in VG, which is Norwegian biggest. That was by the help of the one financing the new party for peace and whatever, because he had written in a comment under one of our posts that we are a picture of us in Ukraine with the cars that were good bomb targets. So such events we just have to embrace. Also, we try to engage people, because if you just become a bank account that transfers money, you don't give anything back. So what we try to do is to create a root organization, grassroots organization. We need then platforms. We have the cars, so let's paint the cars, then we have an event. Let's have gatherings on a pub and talk about things and show the results. That's one of the things we do. Also, we could have sent the cars with trucks. That would be less admin on me and the others. But what we say is that our drivers, they're going down as drivers and coming back as ambassadors. A lot of them are engaging, so it's all about spreading it, because we cannot just be a few who does it, but we need to be many. So building teams, and also is crucial, and I also think, believe in being positive. Because this is to see that this is one way we can do it. And also, even though at times we have little money, we try to embrace that as a challenge and not cry about it, but say that we need to push more results. And as long as we focus on the process, the results will come as a consequence. I will be brief about the other problems. We of course have some bureaucracy issues with customs, for instance. But there's also important to remember, we believe in a rule-based society, so we need rules, we need to adhere to them, and we need to be constructive in working with the authorities. But I must add that in the beginning, before we even formed an organization, or in the very start, we had problems with the banks. The banks wouldn't wanted to give us a bank account. We were denied by the biggest bank, DNB. Thank you, DNB. We were denied insurance by DNB Insurance because they didn't want short-term insurances of our vehicles. We were got such obstacles. So that's important to remember, that also from a Norwegian perspective, how can it be so bureaucratic to just get a bank account and start raising money? In terms of limitations of what we do, I think the biggest donations is one, but also limitations in the car market, because they don't produce any more 2007 model cars. Getting drivers is quite easy. There's a long list of people who want to drive. Yes, there's very many. We try for security purposes, it would make sense, and efficiency, etc. would make sense to have a pool of the same drivers all the time. But we need to spread the word. So we would say that if you donate, if you manage to gather money, let's say for the value of a car, $3,000, you will become a driver. If you contribute in other ways, you will become a driver, or if you're new. But if you have been a driver, you have had your chance to activate. So, thank you.
And very practical advice. Tore, I would like to ask you as well about your organization, and but also as a politician in Norway. Do you feel that support of Ukraine, how do you estimate after 3 years, more than 3 years now, full-scale invasion, do you feel this support is changing? And is there any effect of that on your work?
Yes, regarding the support for Ukraine in Norway, I would say that it's quite unanimous. There are nobody who is thinking about supporting Russia, except some few voices like this Glendies and some other outliers, real outliers. I'm not a real politician, I'm just a hobby politician on the local council level, so well, this area. So
Not yet.
will never be, I don't think. It's too hard competition in my party, Venstre. Too many clever people. I'm not among them. I will just supplant my colleague Ole Kvåle. I'm glad that he was able to talk before me, because I can just say that I can just add on top of what he said. We experienced all the same experiences. We had the same obstacles, more or less. We're doing more or less the same things. I just want to add something about what we are doing and how we are doing it. As I said, I didn't know anything about Ukraine when I started, and I have the same starting point when I'm working with getting another car to Ukraine with other drivers. I want to recruit people who still didn't have the opportunity to support Ukraine. Why didn't they have the opportunity? There are so many organizations, yeah? But people in Norway, they are like this. They don't do things unless they trust. And they trust, yes, who do they trust? They trust, of course, usually neighbors and friends. The state, they trust very much in Norway. Media is quite trusted. Police and so on are very trusted in Norway. So then we start with this starting point that in order to recruit more support for Ukraine, we recruit among friends and people who know each other. So when I get contact from somebody who wants to be a driver, I said to him, like Ole says, that if you're able to collect money for this car, you will become a driver. And how will you collect money for this car? I asked this person, and this person just tells me, oh, I will do this and this. And then I judge if this person is actually able to collect some money. And I come with some extra tips, how they will proceed in doing this and so on, what kind of work they need to do in order to be able to produce this result. And then we send these drivers down to Ukraine with the car to the front line. They are meeting the soldiers who are actually taking the car over in their possession. And that's the zenith, that's the top point of this action. So now, as we're speaking, we have some drivers on the way back from Ukraine. They entered Poland this morning. They have had a fantastic experience in their opinion, because they experienced so many things that they never did, and they will come back as ambassadors for Ukraine or for the Ukrainian cause, and they will talk among their friends and relatives, and they will be able to raise more money, and in cooperation with everybody else, this is just raising the support for Ukraine, and this is the way we are working.
To Jon, can you please talk a little bit more about what exactly you do when it comes to Ukraine in Amnesty, and what can be done to help Ukrainian civilians who are in prison in Russia?
Yes, so Amnesty has a new team in Ukraine. It was established last year. So it's headed by Veronica Welch, who's the wife of the former political prisoner Oleg Sentsov. And I will say also in the team there are former soldiers, there are wives of soldiers. So they have a special engagement also to work with veterans and also with really to document the war crimes. So they have used a lot of time to rebuild trust in Ukraine. And as you all know, and I think Amnesty has learned the lessons there, and that it is important to always listen to the local voices. And I think this is what has changed also inside Amnesty, that it is more this humble respect for the locals. So in addition to the local team, we have researchers coming in, doing and documenting the situation. So the last report we had was focusing on the torture, ill treatment, disappearances by Russia, and it covered both prisoners of war and civilians. So we documented the systematic inhuman treatment the use of hunger, the use of torture in treatment in captivity. We did it by talking to former prisoners of war, but also the relatives, of course also international organizations and local Ukrainian organizations. And it is very clear that this is a systematic policy by Russia. We also use time to call internationally to make sure that Russia will identify the status of prisoners of war, because a lot of people, they have just the status as missing, even though they are kept in captivity. So we believe this is also very important for the exchange of prisoners, that you have this status. And there are, thousands of people and relatives looking for their beloved in Russian prisons. They are sending letters, they don't get anything back. So we are really highlighting that Russia should give access to Red Cross. They should ensure that the prisoners of war could communicate, and they should release all ill prisoners. And of course all civilians who have been arrested. And Amnesty has also documented that the disappearances and torture of civilians in occupied territories and former occupied territories, it's a crime against humanity. And I will say, when I worked on one particular case, it was a preschool teacher in Melitopol. And just to document one case, it's a lot of this, I would say, dark moments, where you don't know what happened for many months. This person is just, no one knows where this person is. And this tells and illustrates how it is to live in these occupied territories, and how scared people are even to tell the story about their relative or about their neighbor, and still some people do it because they believe it is important that this is happening. So I would say our work, I admire the work here being done practically. Our work is really to document on the ground, and then also to make sure that we empower the veterans to tell their story and their relatives, and that we make them visible. So we also have an exhibition now about the prisoners of war, and we will have it in the Nobel Peace Center this autumn, to show photos and tell the stories of some of the prisoners of war. And then we use also this exhibition, we use the stories, we use the documentations to make the clear calls in Council of Europe, in the UN, in Brussels, and using the sections of Amnesty to raise awareness about what is going on. And like you are saying, it's not always easy. I can say that also some of the Amnesty sections is difficult to make sure that they will raise exactly this. Also on social media, you could see that people are tired. But what we know is that more people, like in Norway, people still search for information in Ukraine. It's very, people are interested to know what is happening. But they don't always put a like, or share. It's difficult for people. And I know it's also difficult for journalists inside Ukraine. Sometimes they say, how can we make sure that people will still follow us? And this will be my call to everyone, and also to Ukrainians, to really share the documentations done by journalists and organizations inside Ukraine, because they do so important work.
Thank you so much.
Just a small remark here about documentation. Also, we were working with Yale Observatory. They were collecting information about war crimes, specifically on kids' issues. This deported one, and how they forced to adopt it there in Russia. And what they explain, it's also for everyone here to think how you may help over there, because these research centers, they need a lot of people, a lot of volunteers to work, because it's a huge amount of information from all open sources. And the main message from Yale Observatory was that we can't lose the time, because they hide information. So each day is for documenting, it's crucial, because technology guys, they are creating a lot of software to run through the huge amount of information, like more and more quickly, to have more cases, because it's unbelievable how many things should be done over there. So documenting here is a very critical thing here. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Thank you, all the panelists. Now, it's not over. Let's keep our focus here. And now we will open for questions from the audience. We have time for a couple of questions. Please raise your hand. Oh, actually, no. Please come here, probably, if you want to ask a question, because we have a microphone here. And please introduce yourself and ask one question. Maybe you can just raise your hand showing your interest, and then we can deliver your microphone. Go ahead. We have two questions. There's one first behind you, and then we'll ask. Yeah.
Just a moment, it's a bit of a labyrinth over here. One, two, three. Hi everyone. The name is actually Taras, and I actually represent Ukraine's. I represent Ukraine's foreign Birkola. I've got a question about the fact that a lot of companies in the area wanted to actually donate towards Ukraine, but what they do, of course, is they want to support local agencies. So, for example, they're talking about Red Cross in Norway, etc., etc. I understand that as a regional association, of course, we need to rather share the message that is coming from some of the more, from the larger NGOs with sort of their own nice narratives. The question is, what could we do to make sure that there are Norwegians who are finding more and more loyalty towards those organizations that are indeed working towards Ukraine a bit more, in the sense that people don't believe that we just support some United Nations agency that's never been to Ukraine, and then sort of as a result of this, the use of those resources is it is not that useful in a sense. Thank you.
Who would you like to answer the question?
I would imagine actually Anna. Probably Anna. Thank you.
Okay. Again, it's probably about communication as well. So I think you should build a strong narrative why you should donate to this organization, because I think I talked with everyone that we really don't have money at all after USAID failed, and it's not like I'm being pessimistic, it's just the truth. So for Ukrainian NGOs to raise money, it's very hard. Like for funds like Come Back Alive, they have other challenges, but they have very direct KPIs, let's say. We projects like ours, we are too political. For instance, to go to business to ask for support, it's kind of the very hard way to show the business support over there, because it's too political. We can't bring any logos in New York Times because we're just doing or advocacy events. So probably my answer will be just to explain to people that the problem that we have, because we really lost like almost 8% of funding our after USAID fails.
I think Tori would like to say more.
I cannot say anything about situation in Ukraine regarding fundraising and so on, but regarding the situation in Norway, my perception is that there is still a very huge potential. That's why we are very optimistic and working tirelessly towards raising more funds in Norway. I think Ole maybe might agree on this, that the potential is there. We just have to find the means and the ways of how to make people donate. Not only people, but also organizations, and the Norwegian state. The Norwegian state is a large contributor, but there is an enormous potential. So we have to work politically as well, like my political party is, Venstre is working to pressure the government continually to raise this the part of the sums which we contribute through the Nansen fund to Ukraine.
I just want to add that there, after the USA cut, I know that there has been an increase in support to some of the civilian organizations and local media in Ukraine. And I think this is what that all the Nordic countries should step up, and the EU, because I mean, what is so true with Ukraine is that you have this strong civil society, right? You have all these organizations. You don't have to invent something. You can just support what is there. And this is so important. And when you talk about how to make sure that people will be convinced, look at Bosnia or Balkan, where we have used a lot of money on the UN agencies instead of building up the local civil society. In Ukraine, you have a very strong local civil society in Ukraine, and you need to make sure that they're not making these parallel structures which will damage what is there on the ground, also with the local authorities, really strong in the cooperation with the civil society. So I think this is what we need to underline, all of us. And it's also about what Ole said about building trust, right? Building relations, telling the stories, the success stories, that people become ambassadors. And I was also thinking when I was joining the Ukrainian Association the other day, when you had this, where you talked about to free the prisoners of war from Mariupol. You have so many testimonies, so many strong stories among people also in Norway, and we should really use them. And I'm glad that VG is covering, but it should be even more of these individual stories that will be told, because it's very strong to listen to them. It's a lot of resources.
I think we had one more question here.
Thank you.
Come over to microphone.
Hi there, my name is Vegard Skjøstad. I'm going to steal opportunity just to give a little thing. You are a regional actor, so work your strengths. You can be there, you can physically go to the local companies. Don't go to the national actors, go to the regional. I see some of the people are super good at doing that and get 100,000, 150,000 kroners from relatively small companies that are present. You are a Ukrainian, if you give them an hour or two of your time. You have all the ethos in the world, being Ukrainian, and find somebody who can do it with a bit of pathos, because that's what companies like to do. And when they feel that they're part of helping somebody who has that, talk about the challenges you have in Ukraine, your families, and how them giving you money and support will change their lives. Then there should be no problem getting money. And this leads to my next question, which is sort of given to everybody. It's always the problem of having good presenters, but how do you actively work to create good stories to tell, to get the attention, and then from that get the support you need?
This is a very good question, because this is what I'm thinking about all the time. You have to be very creative, and you have to all the time find new ways of telling the same story, in a way. Because there is one story, and that is the fight for the good against the bad, and who are the actors, what actions are there on the ground, what can you do as a person in your individual capacity as a Norwegian do to support any of those actors who are fighting on the side of the good. Things like this. It's not so easy to give one recipe for how to tell this story. But if you are able to collect a lot of people in your organization, my organization, Ole's organization, and everybody else who's doing something like this, if you're able to get together people who are creative and able to think like this, you can all the time, I think, be able to produce new variants of this kind of story. So to motivate, because the purpose of telling these stories is to motivate the locals in Norway to support Ukraine more.
if I can add to that, I think it's very important, as you say, to motivate and motivate to action, because there's a lot of topics here which is very important to educate and inform, but in the end it needs to lead to action in one way of the other. And I think there's a huge potential in what, for instance, Tord with this Slavo-Ukrainian and also Ukrainian Freedom Congress and other organizations. There are so many stories. The difficulty, I think, is to get the stories. We have a lot of brief meetings with soldiers when we also hand over the cars. I've tried to approach through other volunteers that we would like to have a video where they can tell more about their daily life at the front line, etc., etc. What's their hardships? How do they sleep, etc., etc. But the response is like, no, we don't want to share about that. So when we get request videos or report videos, it's like, hi, we are from there and there, we need more cars. We had a panel discussion. We were very lucky to have 3, it was wounded Ukrainian soldiers present on one of our events in Oslo. And I asked the question, can you tell about the daily life? Okay, and then I hear the answering in Ukrainian, and I hear the word L20, this L200. Okay, so when yes, thank you. So when I was translated, like, yes, our unit needs this and this amount of cars. You know, that was the response. So I think that working more close to Ukrainians and also have, for instance, soldiers to understand what we need here in Norway, so we can help them more. So I think that's we need to work more closely with getting their confidence in this shared project. Thank you.
Also for Amnesty, we are working to find the good stories. It means to speak with different individuals who can tell their own story or the story of their relative. It's hard. It's getting, especially with civilians, it's a lot of people who do not want to speak. And I can understand it as well, that you always have to think about the safety of the person. And if you don't know where your relative is, it's difficult to know if this will harm or not. But we always ask for consent, and if a person agrees that Amnesty should campaign for their case, we will do it with respect, and we will never publish anything before this person has agreed that this is the story they will tell. So we are working to find the stories. I think that sometimes you can be afraid to tell really the darkest stories, right? But I think that is also our obligations to tell about the ill-treatment, the torture, the electroshock, the rapes. And the Norwegian needs to listen to that. Sometimes this is so important to remind people that this is what is happening. And then I think it is a challenge to tell the stories where nothing is happening. Let's say a person like Yesepenko, who is in Crimea, a journalist, and he's sentenced for 10 years. Nothing is happening in his case, but he still has a wife and a little daughter waiting for him. And to tell that story in different ways again and again, that's part of the responsibility and what we need to do, because we want these people to also be released. Yes. So, but it needs resources, it needs good journalists, and that's why I believe also to support local Ukrainian media is so important, because there are brilliant journalists there telling the stories, but they have not enough resources.
Yeah, and I will add, if I may, a couple of words. As a communication manager, I have to, and only what you have mentioned, we call it call to action in the end of stories.
Yes.
Put it there. Yeah. And what I just want to add, my experience, what we've discovered during these 3 years of working abroad and helping to find and tell stories abroad about Ukraine, what from our perspective really works and encourages our partners in ministers of defense and politicians, stories of bravery, stories that could encourage and shows that engagement could bring bravery and victory. And that works, and that moves people and politicians and all people who are making decisions to be on the good part, to be together with winners and brave people.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank you, the panelists, for great input and for everything you do for Ukraine. And short recap, I mean, there's really not much left to say besides support Ukrainian people, support Ukrainian army, communicate, engage, yeah, and just stay with us until the victory, I guess.
Okay, short 10 minutes break. Please